Har Har Mahadev Shambhu. Happy Shivaratri to you all. Jai Bholenath. This is such a special day for all of us, even the Vaishnavas who will be meditating upon Lord Shiva to ask for his mercy so that we can become closer to Sri Hari. Because only by his mercy can we actually move forward. Only by the mercy of Vaishnavas and Sadhus can we make any progress on our spiritual path. Today I wanted to share a really beautiful Katha demonstrating this directly from the mouth of Lord Shiva himself. This Katha is so beautiful because it shares it's the words of Mahadev to his wife Jaganmata Shri Parvati Devi, describing the beauty of a sadhu, the lakshana of a sadhu. So Maharaj Chitraketu, he was a great devotee of the Lord, a Hari Bhakt, a sadhu. And he was, traveling in outer space. He had a very special plane that he could go anywhere in. And once he came upon an assembly where Lord Shiva was giving a katha. He was actually sharing with all the siddhas and charanas and the demigods and the great, great sages, Lord Brahma, Indra, Narada, the Kumaras. Everybody was there listening in the audience to Lord Shiva giving Harikatha. And Mata Parvati was sitting on his lap. Now this was an interesting sight. It's not something that we can all understand. But when Maharaj Chitraketu saw that Mata Parvati is sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva, he started to laugh. He was quite surprised and he started laughing loudly. Okay, what is this? Lord Shiva, you are the leader of all dharmic practices. You are the guide of all of humanity, of everyone, all the demigods. You are supposed to set the example. If you behave like this, that you're keeping your wife on your lap while you're doing katha, this is inappropriate. So he started to criticize Lord Shiva in front of everybody. And can you imagine that? But Lord Shiva just smiled and he didn't say anything. He didn't retaliate at all because he could understand the heart of Maharaj Chitraketu. He was not an envious person. Maharaj Chitraketu was a pure devotee. He was a very elevated sadhu. So, he must have had his reasons, I guess, for saying it. And so Lord Shiva just tolerated so patiently. I mean, when I think of that, it just melts my heart. Lord Shiva is so tolerant, so loving, so patient with all his children. He understands that there must be some love in his heart for me for saying this. And so he didn't retaliate. Nor did all the sadhus. Lord Brahma is listening to this. All the demigods are listening to this. And when they saw that Lord Shiva was not reacting, they thought, okay, unke beech kuch understanding hoga. So they also didn't say anything. But of course, Mata Parvati, she got very upset. And I can understand the sentiment as a wife and mother. If somebody speaks badly about your husband or your children, may Krishna protect him. So she let loose on him. She said, well, who do you think you are, Chitraketu? You think you are more learned and wise than all the sages here, than Narada, than Brahma, than Bhrigumuni, than all these learned brahmanas and sages that are here listening to my husband, who is the guru, who is the Adi Guru of the entire cosmos. You are going to instruct us about dharma? Oh, she lost it. She said, you are very arrogant, and because of your pride, because of this aparad to the Supreme Lord Shiva, you should be punished. That will nullify your aparad. So she cursed him. She cursed Maharaj Chitraketu to be born as a demon in his next life, to be born in a Danava Yoni in his next life. And everybody was like, Wow, it's happening now. But Maharaj Chitraketu, if you can imagine, he did not retaliate at all. He got down from his, airplane and folded his hands and just prayed to Mother Parvati and said, I accept whatever you have said. I accept. I did not mean to offend you. And I'm really sorry that I did. And of course, he began to share philosophy, sharing his wisdom, saying that I understand that this is all because of my own karma. You cursing me is not your fault, or I take full responsibility. This is the beauty of a sadhu, of a devotee, that they have real humility in the heart. Even if a mistake is made, even if we all make mistakes, but when a mistake is made and somebody corrects us, our superior, Mata Parvati, is Jaganjanani, Jagat Mata. So if she is upset by, Maharaj Chitraketu's words, he's willing to accept it. Immediately, he gave all the reasonings that, well, it's just the way of the material world, happiness comes and goes, and there's no other cause other than my own karma and the divine energy of the Supreme Lord. The sadhu, the true bhakta, only sees the hand in God in everything that is happening. So Maharaj Chitraketu is seeing that this is just Sri Krishna's hand. This is just my Lord acting as he wishes, and I accept. That is the sadhu lakshan that we'll get to in the end. I'm going to start reading from the Bhagvatam. This Katha is directly from the Bhagavat MahaPuran. It's from the sixth canto, chapter 17. I'm going to start reading what happens after Maharaj Chitraketu accepts his curse and he leaves. And Lord Shiva can see on the face of Mother Parvati that she's completely shocked. She thought that Maharaj Chitraketu would, argue back or be upset, or, he would react to being cursed to be born as a demon in his next life. But he didn't. He just was so humble. So her face was like, wow, totally astonished. So Lord Shiva starts sharing in front of all the sages. Please read along with me if you'd like to. Canto 6, chapter 17, verse 27. Shri Rudravacha Drishtatyasi Sushroni Hareradbhuta Karmanaha Mahatmyam Bhritya Bhrityanam Nisprihanam Mahatmanam. Lord Shiva said, my dear beautiful Parvati, have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnavas? Being servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhritya Bhrityanam, not serving God directly, being the servant of the Lord. I feel like Lord Shiva is implying that actually he is my devotee. He's my servant. He was only joking with me. That's why Lord Shiva didn't respond. So it's kind of like a hint here, because Lord Shiva is always meditating on Lord Vishnu. So there's a lineage of loving interaction between the devotees of the Lord and the Lord directly. The devotee never wants to step over other devotees to gain the mercy of the Lord. He's always thinking, how can I serve other Vaishnavas? So this is very beautiful that Lord Shiva is saying that actually he's Bhritya Bhrityanam. He's the servant of the servant. He is my friend. They are great souls, and such Vaishnavas are not interested in any kind of material happiness because it's temporary. They've got something higher. Narayana parah sarve nakutascha bhibyati svargapavarga narakeshva api tulyartha darshina. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. That's where real joy resides. Dehinam deha samyogad dvandvanishvara leelaya sukham dukkham mritirjanma shapo nugraha evacha. Because of the actions of the Supreme Lord's external energy, the living entities, us, we, are conditioned in contact with material bodies. The dualities of happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors are natural byproducts of this contact in the material world. It's coming whether we like it or not, just by having a body. Just this is all coming. Happiness and distress, birth and death, curses and favors. Best not to get too affected by it. Aviveka kritah pumso hyartha bheda ivatmani gunadosha vikalpascha bhideva srajivat krita. As one mistakenly considers a flower garland to be a snake or experiences happiness and distress in a dream, so in the material world, by a lack of careful consideration, we differentiate between happiness and distress, considering one good and the other bad. But really, they're both temporary and almost non-existent. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhaktim Udvahitam Nrinam Udvahatam Nrinam Jnana Vairagya Viryanam Nahi Kaschid Vipashrayah. Persons engaged in devotional service to Lord Vasudeva, Krishna, have naturally perfect knowledge and detachment from this material world. Vasudeva Bhagavati, Jnana and Vairagyam, Giryanam, that's just natural. Jnanam and Vairagyam automatically follow bhakti. As soon as you start your relationship in bhakti, Jnanam and Vairagyam are byproducts. Therefore, such devotees are not interested in the so-called happiness and or distress of this world. Naham virincho na kumara narado na brahmaputra munaya suresha vidamaya yasye hitam amshaka na tat swarupam prithagisha manina. Neither I, Lord Shiva is saying this, neither I, nor Brahma, nor the Ashwini Kumaras, nor Narada, or the other great sages who are Brahma's sons, nor the demigods can understand the pastimes and personality of the Supreme Lord. They can't understand the pastimes and personality of the Supreme Lord. Well, what hope do we have? We can only pray at the lotus feet of the devotees, of the devotees, of the devotees of the Lord. Although we are part of the Supreme Lord, Lord Shiva is saying this, we consider ourselves independent, separate controllers, and therefore we cannot understand his identity. So Lord Shiva is revealing a Rahasya here. As long as we consider ourselves independent from the Lord, as long as we consider ourselves to be the controller, then we cannot understand his real identity. It is only through surrendering our identity, surrendering our independence, surrendering our control to the Supreme Person that we can understand him, that we can get that Divya Jnanam. Lord Shiva is revealing it because he is Adi Guru. He is there to guide us. Nahiya yasyasti priya kaschin na priya svaparopi va atmatvat sarvabhutanam sarvabhuta priyo harihi. He holds no one as very dear. He's talking about Lord Hari. And no one is inimical. Hari, he has no one for his own relative. And no one is alien to him. He is actually the soul of all living entities. Thus, he is the auspicious friend of all living beings and is very near and dear to all of them. Tasya chayam mahabhagash chitraketu priyo nugah sarvatra samadrikshanto hya aham chaiva chutapriyah tasmanna vismaya karya purusheshu mahatmasu mahapurusha bhakteshu shanteshu samadarshishu. This magnanimous Chitraketu is a dear devotee of the Lord. He is a Mahapurusha. He is a bhakta. He is equal to all living entities, samadarshishu, and is free from attachment and hatred. Similarly, I am also very dear to Lord Narayana. It's so sweet. Lord Shiva is telling his wife, I'm very dear to Lord Narayana. Therefore, no one should be astonished to see the activities of the most exalted devotees of Lord Narayan, for they are free from attachment and envy. They are always peaceful and they are equal to everyone. Isn't it beautiful? That's the end of Lord Shiva sharing with his Adi Devi, Parvati Devi. And then Shukadev Goswami says a very powerful shloka that where he's describing, finally, this is an example of a sadhu, sadhu lakshanam. The great devotee, I'll say the Sanskrit, iti bhagavato devya pratishaptum alantamaha murdhana sajagrihe shapam etavat sadhu lakshanam. So the sadhu lakshana is that Maharaj Chitraketu was completely capable. He was a very powerful sadhu, and he was fully able to counter curse. Pratishaptum alantamaha. Devyaha pratishaptum. He could have very easily counter cursed Deviji. But he just bowed his head and accepted the curse out of humility. That is sadhu lakshan. That you are fully capable, yet you are humble. You understand your position, and you understand that our capacity, our capability comes from the Supreme Lord. It is not our doing. So that makes us humble. That can make somebody feel the true humility. If you have true gratitude in your heart, you will feel true humility. So that's Shukadev Goswami saying, the great devotee Chitraketu was so powerful that he was quite competent to curse Mother Parvati in retaliation. But instead of doing so, he very humbly accepted the curse and bowed his head before Lord Shiva and his wife. This is very much to be appreciated as the standard behavior of a Vaishnava sadhu. I just find this pastime so beautiful because, you know, even when Lord Shiva is just smiling, when Chitraketu Maharaj is insulting him, kind of, you know, it might be a bit jokingly, but really he's calling him out in front of everyone. And what does Lord Shiva do? Just humbly, you know, tolerates it. That is sadhu lakshan. To just be so magnanimous, so loving, so caring in your heart that you understand, you know, he's got his vision. Let him say what he needs to. I'm not affected by that. He's, you know, complete yogi in samadhi. He doesn't get affected by what other people say about him. That is sadhu lakshan. And this beautiful story, it has a very the phal at the end. Shukadev Goswami is saying that if you say this prayer, if you recite it, let me just read that part. Right. Chitraketu was a great devotee, a Mahatma. If one hears the story, the history, itihasam imam punyam, Chitraketur Mahatmanah, Mahatmyam Vishnu Bhaktanam, Shrutva Bandhad Vimuchyate. Not just muchyate, vimuchyate, completely freed from bandhan. if you hear this story about Maharaj Chitraketu and the Mahatmya of the Mahatma, then we get completely freed from material bondage, because it anchors our faith in the Supreme Lord, in Lord Shiva, in the Vaishnavas. It anchors our faith so deeply that you can feel that release from the burden of this material world. Yetat praturuthaya shraddhaya vagyatah patet itihasam harim smritva sayati paramam gatim. So not just will we get bandhanad vimuchyate, not only will we get liberated from the bondage of material existence, but we will also get paramam gatim. We can achieve the highest goal of life, which is attaining the lotus feet of Sri Hari. So it says, one who rises from bed early in the morning and recites this history of Chitraketu, controlling his words, controlling his mind, and remembering the Supreme Lord, will return home back to Godhead without difficulty. So I'm just very grateful to be able to share with you all. Hope you have a wonderful, very meditative day. We can pray and be blessed by the most magnanimous Lord Shiva and Jaganjanani Parvati Devi. May she reside in our hearts and guide us straight to the lotus feet of Sri Hari. Happy Maha Shivaratri to you all. Hare Krishna.